In this video, Crypto Kids, we're going to be talking about whether if Bitcoin is going to $65,000 as promised on yesterday's update video, which all of you seem to have loved. We will go into why I think this bear market low could take place in the mid 65 region. Guys, please, I know a lot of you are emotional about Bitcoin. I know that we want Bitcoin to go up, and I think Bitcoin will go up in the macro. It's just, we need to look at facts, and we need to consider the probabilistic scenarios of how much further Bitcoin can dip and risk manage accordingly. That's all we're trying to do here on today's updates. Guys, if you're tuning into this channel for the first time, because we have so many new crypto kids coming in, first of all, make sure that you are subscribed and make sure that you destroy the like button and keep your notification bells on for daily Bitcoin price analysis. We're at 63,700. Can we get to 65,000? That would be absolutely amazing. If you're looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, check out the first link down in the description to get up to $30,000 in sign-up rewards. And the second link will redirect you to a $14,000 trading competition that we just started running here. So I know a lot of you already have a Weeks account. If you click the second link and have a Weeks account, you will just have to press register. If you can continue with your normal trading, you will get additional rewards due to your trading volume and how much you were able to generate over the period of the next 10 days and 21 hours. So don't miss out on that opportunity. The links are down in the description below. All right, let's get into why Bitcoin to the mid 60s. Well, first of all, we know that we're not looking so great. We have a MACD bearish crossover. The last time this crossover took place was at the top of the prior cycle and in the cycle before. In all of those instances, Bitcoin went to lower levels. Bitcoin went to lower levels. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going to go to lower levels. I don't think we're going to go down as much as we did in those prior cycles. I'm not talking about a negative 80% decline. I'm not talking about a negative 60 to 70% decline. I'm talking about something much more or less. People are not as interested in crypto as they were in those prior cycles. There's less retail, there's less economic stimuli, so we don't have the same buying pressure from the individuals like we did from prior cycles, meaning there was less euphoria, altcoins didn't move, and I think because we went up less, it makes sense that we go down less. There's less people to take liquidity from. So looking at that logic and looking at our technicals, we can highlight that yes, in the intermediate short term, we are bearish. I say intermediate short term because I believe the long term is looking more into the next 5, 10, 15 years. I think we're bearish here. And what's a sensible prediction to give in terms of good levels of support to the downside? I would love to argue that this range, this box between the 65 into the 79 is a very good level. You've had multiple price history going into that specific price level. I can show you just a few examples, and I always lose my brush, and I hate it when this happens on TradingView. Look, in the prior cycle, the first choppy all-time high, that was a good retest. The second and ultimate all-time high, that was a great retest. For 7 months in 2024, Bitcoin pretty much consolidated in close proximity to that blue box. When we went down in April of 2025, that's where Bitcoin found support. Following the crash of the great deleveraging event, that's also where Bitcoin found support. I think it's a good level, specifically when we look into the production cost of Bitcoin. There's something called an estimated production cost for Bitcoin. This is a new concept that maybe a lot of you haven't heard of before. Every commodity, and Bitcoin is a commodity, Bitcoin is the first ever digital commodity, classified by the SEC back in January of 2024. Every commodity like silver, for example, or gold, or even soybean, they all have a production cost. There is a specific cost associated to extracting the precious metal, extracting the commodity from the ground, from the mine, and refining it or getting it to a place where it can be sold. There's always a cost element. The way that commodities work is that prices never tend to fall below that estimated production cost. When we look into Bitcoin's history, since its inception, it's only retested it and found support. There were no times where it sensibly and sustainably broke below that estimated production cost and went to lower levels. Currently, that level sits at $67,000, perfectly within our box of reason. How is this production cost estimated? With silver, it's different. With gold, it's different. With soybean, it's different. There's always differences with commodities because not every commodity is as easy to extract, to refine, so on and so forth. So with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was first created, people were worried about the individuals, the whales dumping coins. But the reality is, whales will always dump their coins, and we have a chart showing that OG whales have been dumping their coins more so than ever before. But in reality, every Bitcoin is a value, and the key is to finding the value of that commodity and not only looking at the whales and the individual with large amounts of it selling. That's not how you determine the market price of a Bitcoin when you first started this thing. It actually began when you tried to calculate, right? The first Bitcoin USD exchange rate was published in 2009, and it was $0.00764 per Bitcoin. They calculated it using a simple formula. The average amount of electricity required to run a computer with high CPU multiplied by the average residential cost of electricity divided by the number of Bitcoins generated by the computer. Easy. You need electricity, and you need compute power to create a Bitcoin. You need that. And that's the associated cost. That's the associated production cost. Well, today, because Bitcoin is very big and there is tremendous amounts of hash power that is associated to Bitcoin, the hash power has been going up and up and up and up. And the difficulty has been going up and up and up and up because more computers with faster GPUs. It's getting easier to mine Bitcoin, but the difficulty gets adjusted every 2 weeks, and there's more computers in the world dedicating power to mine Bitcoin. Perhaps that's a topic to jump into in a later video. But since these days that this formula can't be used, every single country, every single household, every single individual is going to have a little bit of a variation in their electricity cost. If you're out in, let's say, America, living in a certain state, your energy cost is going to be different to an individual living in the Middle East. Let's say you are in the Middle East and you're a local, you actually get massively discounted energy costs. You could be a company, an institution that gets a wholesale value. So everyone is going to have a different energy cost. So they use a brand new formula that is adapted to the current times, and you get the following chart where the average cost lies at $67,000. We do get retests commonly. We know that we are in the part of the cycle where we're transitioning from bull into bear market. We're expecting lower price levels. In the intermediate short term in the macro, we're greatly bullish. So with all of that in place, with all of those expectations in place, and I'm going to purely focus on the more longer time frame charts today, and we can jump into the short term tomorrow. I think it's very sensible to expect a Bitcoin bottom between the 65 into the 79.80 region. I think that is a 79 region. I think that's a very, very fair expectation. People are calling for 45K, people are calling for 50K. I'm not one of those people. I like to be more sensible. So I think if you are somebody that has a long-term macro view approach on Bitcoin, which I think is the best view to have, because I think Bitcoin will be the money, then keeping on a dollar costs average entry, buying as much as we can every single day, to me makes sense, because I'm hodling a very big portion of my spot portfolio for 10, 15, 20 years. That's going to compound in its investment, in its interest over time. It will compound, 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 and become a ridiculous sum due to monetary debasement. So that's what I'm compounding. But if you're a leverage trader, if you're somebody that does trading and you do swing trading, then I would be careful. I think Bitcoin will retest its 200 daily moving average, currently sitting at 105.8. But from there, a rejection and a retest into the mid-60s, into the low 70s could be the go-to scenario that Bitcoin chooses to pursue. Before we end off the video, just a quick update on the news. Jim Cramer, who is very consistently wrong on the crypto markets, mentioned that you should be getting ready for a bad market open. This is because President Trump is threatening the EU with brand new tariffs because they're not giving him Greenland. So he's taking the tariff approach. Well, actually, for this time, I agree with Kim. I think he could be right. We know that the Supreme Court is going to give a decision very soon on whether if Trump's tariffs are illegal. He's going to take Greenland with the tariff strategy, but imagine if the Supreme Court next week, which there's a very high probability of them rejecting them, imagine if they classify tariffs as non-legal. Isn't it going to be very awkward? I think that if that is the scenario we go with, then America's strength could see a marketing hit, and that would cause the equities to see a bit of a drift off to the downside. That would impact Bitcoin negatively. So just saying in the short term and intermediate short term, I am not so optimistic. But when I look into the macro, I am a huge optimist. I couldn't be a bigger optimist. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you all on the next one. Take care, and as always, bye-bye.